Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The 26th World Athletics Indoor Championship came to a close on Sunday. The three-day event held at the Chinese city of Nanjing saw the English-speaking Caribbean registering 5 medals in total, including 4 on the final day. The English-speaking Caribbean's lone gold medal came courtesy of the Bahamian Bahamas Charlton, who successfully defended her 60-meter hurdles title ahead of Switzerland's Duplantis Kambunji, with Jamaica's Ackera Nugent copying the bronze medal. Charlton's gold was the solitary medal of the championship for the Bahamians, but it still landed them the top CARICOM finish at 12th, 5 positions ahead of Jamaica in 17th. Jamaica finished on 4 medals, 2 silver and 2 bronze. Track and field powerhouse USA finished atop the standings with most gold medals, 6, and the most medals overall at 16. Cuba getting a top 10 spot as well. Our athletics correspondent and SportsMax.tv editor Leighton Levy has been covering the world indoors, and he joins us now via telephone to recap some of the most memorable and the top performances. Leighton, let's start with Bahamas Charlton successfully defending her 60-meter hurdles title. I was suggesting at the top of the show that it's not an easy title to defend given how competitive women's sprint hurdling is at the moment. And what a fast race it was, Leighton. The top 6 finishers dipping below 7.80 seconds. And the fact that 0.02 of a second separating, I think, the first 5 or 6. So it was that close. One of the best events of the meet, wasn't it?
That was absolutely close. I mean, when you look at it, you didn't know who were the medalists because, well, going in, Evan wasn't the favorite. For me, Duplantis Kambunji, of course, as you know, at the European, she won the European title just a couple of weeks before. And she ran 7.67, which is just 0.02 of a second outside of the world record held by Bahamas Charlton. She was my favorite because she came in with that kind of form. Devin hasn't been particularly, spectacular so far this season. So she made herself through the rounds. Look, ran some decent times, but you didn't expect her to come to the final, certainly not based on form, and pull out a victory, especially one this close, where 7.72 won, 7.73 second, and of course 7.74 separated third to 6th. That's how close it was. And of course, thankfully, Ackera Nugent came in and got that third place spot because it was very, very close. When you look at the cross the line, you couldn't tell who was going to be on the podium. Visa was there. Grace Stark was there. It was one of those bang-up finishes that you cannot hope to see in many of the sprint events at any major championship. And thankfully, Bahamas Charlton came through and successfully defended her title. That season's best time as well. For me, it was one of the most exciting events of the championship.
Yeah, and you said Kambunji was your favorite. Her older sister had won the 60 meters in a very fast finish as well. So I guess she would have been inspired by that. But it was such a close race that I don't think any of the athletes finishing 2nd to 5th or 6th, lost marks in defeat. That's how close it was. But getting back to the point you were making, Leighton, about based on form going in, that Bahamas Charlton may not have been many people's idea of the winner. Her running style, though, and her powerful start to all sprint hurdles races. When she's outdoors, typically she's in front after 50 to 60 meters. So given her strength for the first 50 or 60 meters of any sprint hurdling event, that in itself will always put her in a strong position for a title like this.
Yeah, true. But when you look at what happened leading up to the World Indoor Championships, I think Devin's best time was 7.82. I think it was that I can't stand corrected on that if it's incorrect, but it wasn't anywhere near where a 7.75 with Ackera Nugent or a 7.6 with Duplantis. As I mentioned before, it's just 0.02 of a second outside of Devin's world record. She came in here as the form athlete. And of course, Grace Stark, who trains with Grant Holloway, was running really fast. I remember Grace Stark ran 7.73 in the preliminary round, and I think she ran 7.72 in the semifinal round. So you're looking at, if you should go off the times alone, David would not necessarily be your favorite going into the final. But, they say champions do what champions do, and of course she pulled it up when it mattered most.
Yeah, and as a result of this, Leighton, Bahamas finishing 12th on the medal table. Were you surprised with that ranking?
No, I mean, a gold medal is ranked above everything else. So once they got a gold medal, they were going to rank higher than any Caribbean nation, especially if they didn't win a gold medal. I mean, Jamaica won 4 medals, 2 silver, 2 bronzes. The thing is that gold medals count as in terms of your ranking. So, you know, that the Bahamas, with their 1 medal ranked above Jamaica, was not surprising because the gold medals are what carries weight in terms of the ranking system.
Right, and as you mentioned Jamaica's medals, let's talk a bit now about the silver star, Wayne Pinnock, of course, getting silver for his country. You said that, you know, you didn't tip Devine to win her gold in her competition. What about Wayne Pinnock and how he went about? Did you predict that one?
No, because this was Wayne's season opener. When I spoke to his coach, Travis Gufford, just a couple of weeks ago, he said Wayne is going to the World Indoor Championships, and that's where he will open his season. So you didn't know what to expect because he didn't have any jumps coming in. He was probably the only person in the field who didn't have a performance coming in. Of course, Furlan is a very talented youngster. I remember talking to an agent about him last year, and they have high hopes for him. Of course, when you consider that he won with 8 meters 30, just 1 centimeter above Wayne's mark of 8:29. Of course, he had an 8:28 as well. You have to wonder that if Wayne had probably had a jump or 2 coming in, he probably would have won that gold medal. But it is what it is. His coach thought it would be best for him to open at the World Championships, and that's what he did, and came out with a silver medal. I don't think anybody can complain because that's his first competition all year, and for him to come out with such a big mark early in the season suggests that going into the national championships in June for the time being, and of course for the World Championships in September, Wayne could be jumping much farther by then, which makes him a medal contender for the World Championships in Tokyo, Japan, once he stays healthy.
Yeah, starting his season with a bang, 8.29 Leighton. Again, very, very surprising because, you know, we didn't get to see him for the season just yet. What did you think about that distance?
That's a good mark. I mean, remember, he only lost, Furlan has been jumping, had a couple of meets coming in, and he got 8:30. Wayne being a centimeter behind just tells you that the kind of shape that he's in. When you open with that kind of mark, you have to wonder, once he gets his rhythm in and, of course, gets whatever flaws in his technique or his run-up, his approach or anything, he's going to probably be jumping a lot farther as the season progresses. So it's a very good mark to start your season with. And, of course, the bonus on top is getting a silver medal, almost a gold medal. So you're looking at somebody who is in shape right now. Jamaica is producing a nice batch of jumpers for the last few years. A lot of them coming through the University of Arkansas, now at Kansas State University. Of course, Romain from in the high jump, he didn't make the final, but of course, Raymond Richards did. But the thing about it is that Jamaica is developing a nice crew of jumpers. Kira McLeod, of course, Jaden Hibbert, who will, I believe, form the bulk of Jamaica's, or a big portion of Jamaica's medal prospects going into the World Championships later this year, assuming everybody stays healthy. So I think this is a good way to start. It's a very encouraging performance for Wayne personally. And I think his coach will be quite happy with the performance as well.
Yeah, before we leave Wayne Pinnock, though, Leighton, his body language at the end of the event, he did look distraught. I wondered what would trigger the disappointment that we saw. Was it that it was another silver medal because he got silver at the Paris Olympics and silver at the Budapest World Championship before? Or was it that he was so close to getting the gold medal? Because you've painted the picture. It was his season opener. So, you know, getting a silver there is more than commendable. But he did look, I saw him, you know, just crouching in the sand, and he looked forlorn.
I think all of that, all of the above, Lance, and I think also that when you look at how he was setting up for his final approach, I think he probably wanted to pull off a tento glue there and make one big jump at the final and win. And it fell 10 centimeters short. 8 meters 20 was his final jump. I think he probably was disappointed in the fact that he was aiming for the gold medal. I know that for a fact, that he was aiming for a gold medal. And he just came up just short. And the disappointment of not winning gold, having coming so close, I think, you know, would have weighed on him a little bit. But I think it's still encouraging, even though he was disappointed, that he came that close to the goal. Because when you come that close to be able to smell it and not being able to achieve it, it is disappointing, notwithstanding the fact that he won a silver medal, knowing that it could have been a goal. So, I think I understand his disappointment.
Yeah, the 4x4 silver for the Jamaican men. Of course, the USA, perennial dominant team in those events, whether it's indoors or outdoors, but a pretty solid run by the Jamaican boys, wasn't it?
Yeah, very pleasant surprise too. I didn't even realize what kind of quality was on that team. I mean, I looked at them on paper, but I hadn't seen many of them during the course of the season leading up to the World Indoor Championship. So to see them in the hunt and, of course, eventually losing to the United States and coming out with a silver is a nice bonus. And it's kind of a redemption of, based on what happened last year at the Olympic Games when the 4x4 men, all of that drama that involved the men not qualifying for the Olympic Games, this kind of makes up for it. And based on what we saw on the weekend at the Grand Slam meet, I think that any qualification event, they should make an effort. The Junior Series should make an effort to assemble a team that will go into Tokyo to possibly end up with another medal as well, because clearly there's a lot of depth developing in Jamaica's 400 meters at last, finally. So this is, I think, a good start, and it was a pleasant surprise for me, and I'm sure a lot of people as well, that the Jamaican team did as well, the men's 4x4 team, coming away with a silver medal on the final day of the championships.
Yeah, before we go quickly to two of the biggest stars at the meet, Holloway and Duplantis, both completing the three-peat. Let's pedal back a bit to that sprint hurdles, because I didn't get too much of an analysis we haven't presented too much of analysis yet on Ackera Nugent's bronze medal, because she was in tears after the event. Happy tears, of course, because it's her first medal at the global level. But we spoke about how close the race was and so on, and Bahamas Charlton getting the win. But how good is Ackera Nugent, and how much do you think this sets her up for a pretty lengthy stay on the global stage?
It does, Lance, because, a lot of pressure, I suspect a lot of pressure was on her, because since she turned pro shortly before she went to the Olympics last year, and then she had that back issue that prevented her from training a week leading up to the Olympics, and then flaming after getting to the final, crashing out the way she did. Coming into these championships, it was about getting the job done. And it started out terribly. She was horrible in the first round. It got even worse in the second round, in the semifinal, where she crashed through the final hurdle and miraculously managed to stay on her feet and qualify for the final. And in the final itself, she didn't get the best start either, and had to come from behind to try to catch the field. And to be able to do that would have given her a lot of confidence going into the rest of the season, given how hard it was for her to get to that bronze medal. And I remember sending her a message and asking her if it was tears of joy that, when she brought down and sat on the field and was being comforted by the other medalists, Devin and, of course, Aditaji. And she said, "Did you see the semifinal?" Meaning that, she was just thankful to be able to get to the final, and then to have gotten to the final, and, of course, finishing with a medal. Of course, what is clear, though, is that there are some things with her mechanics that she needs to work on. When I saw her at the national championships last year, she looked a lot better. So I don't know if there was a change in how she executed her races, or is just the truncated distance that gave her a challenge at this particular meet. But something that she and Boogie Johnson are going to have to work on. But clearly, she trusted that technique. Whatever the plan was in the final, she trusted whatever it was that she was preparing to do before the championships, and it paid off for her just barely. But for her to get there was a significant accomplishment for her. The pressure is off now. She has a global medal on her resume, and of course she has big meets coming up. She's won at the Diamond League already, so she knows what that feels like. But she would want to go into Tokyo up against a Masai Russell and of course Grace Stark and a Jasmine Camacho Quinn, and the other, of course, Toby Amason, who is here in Jamaica training, to be able to top those athletes, and to be able to do that, she has to be able to master the techniques, her speed between the hurdles, the snapping down off each hurdle, going forward with her momentum, and of course having the speed to finish. All those things have to come together if she's going to be on the podium later on this year when it really matters again. So this is a good learning experience for her, and I think having come through the fire, so to speak, considering what happened in the first 2 rounds, I think her getting on the podium would have been a big boost for her emotionally and psychologically. And of course, going back into training for the rest of the season, she would now know that the pressure is off because a global medal has been achieved. And so the expectation of a global medal is no longer a priority. It's now taking a step from there to going on to become the athlete who ends up at the top of the podium.
Yeah, and as we're on the eve of boys and girls champs, we remember Ackera's outstanding performances as a junior at Excelsior, when it was obvious from her teenage years that she had a special talent. Would you say that where she is now was projected, and that she is delivering on the promise, even in a bigger way than we had seen from her teenage years?
Absolutely. Look, one of the things that I'll coach it like this: progress is never linear, huh? And she's had her bumps in the road, and the reality is that we saw her come through the final season at the NCAA's and winning gold in the sprint hurdles. In a win they did 12:25. I think it was at about a really fast time, I think, but the win was very high. And of course she transitioned into the pro ranks and then had a nightmare Olympic Games, but then rebounded to do well in the Diamond League meets after that. And of course finishing with the fastest time in the world last year, 12:24, which is a new national record, following on the national record that she set at the National Stadium, 12:28 for the national championships. So the progress for her is clearly not linear. She's making leaps, but she's taking sometimes backward steps for whatever reason. But what we're seeing from Ackera Nugent, and I've said this before, and I say this again now publicly, I think she's probably the most talented sprint hurdler Jamaica has ever produced. And I think she's on her way to manifesting that in so many ways, because not only is she physically capable, mentally she's fierce. She does not fear competition. She actually thrives off of it. And the only obstacle can get in her way is herself. And I think we saw an indication of that she got out of her own way at the World Indoor Championships. And now I think, I'm not saying that she won't have other bumps in the road leading up for the rest of the year and for the rest of her career. But as long as she stays healthy, I think she would go on the world's best, if not the best. And I think, truly believe that she can challenge the world record, if not this year, maybe in the next couple of years as she goes towards the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. That's how I think about Ackera Nugent. I think she's immensely talented. I think she has all the tools. She has the speed. I remember talking to Chris Johnson that's a couple of years ago when she was still at Arkansas, and he says he thinks she's also a very good flat sprinter. And I asked him, is she the next Gail Divas? As you know, Gail Divas was an outstanding sprint hurdler as well as a sprinter, 2 Olympic titles, but she won 3 world titles as a sprint hurdler. We could see something similar from Ackera Nugent, not necessarily in flat sprint, but certainly from the sprint hurdles perspective.
Yeah, we're pretty much out of time, Leighton, but a quick comment on Duplantis and Holloway, who have made their events their own at the World Indoors.
Greatest of all time for both. I mean, Grant has not lost a sprint hurdles indoors for 10 years. And Duplantis just continues to raise the bar literally every single time he jumps. How do you beat these guys? I mean, Grant Holloway is the epitome. He's like Edwin Moses in the 400-meter outdoor he didn't lose for 10 years before Harris beat him. And of course, Grant hasn't lost in 10 years indoors in the sprint 6-meter hurdles. And he continues to dominate. He has the work, and I think he has the next 3 or 4 fastest times after that as well. I don't see anybody right now who can truly challenge him indoors. Outdoors is another matter, but he's right now, I think he's unquestionably the GOAT. And I said the same thing about Duplantis. As you know, I'm a big Sergei Bubka fan, but what this kid is doing at 21 years old, or 25 years old, sorry, is putting the Ukrainian to shame, because he wins. I think he's only lost twice in the last 3 years. Who does that in one of the most difficult events in any sport? Because it requires flexibility, it requires power, it requires strength and strength endurance to have that power coming through your shoulders, the flexibility and the gymnastic quality to extend your body over that hurdle. You know, this boy is not normal. Duplantis he is what Bolt was to the 100-meter sprint. He's virtually invincible.
All right. Leighton, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for linking with us, reviewing what happened in Nanjing, China. Serious statement that you just made about Ackera Nugent being, in your opinion, the most talented sprint hurdle on the women's side the Jamaicans have produced, because you know that there is a massive list of global stars for Jamaica in the event, even back to the 1990s when Michelle Freeman had won a 60-meter hurdles gold medal world indoors as well. And then there's Foster Hilton and Daniel Williams and so on. So it's a big statement you have made, but time will tell if what you've said is true.
Yeah, all she needs is now the medals to back that up.
All right.
You know, because, I mean, Michelle Freeman, I remember that year, by the way, 28 years ago,
yes.
Michelle Freeman and Gillian also got 1-2 at the World Indoors.
Yes.
So, you know, they've accomplished a lot. Ackera is still to accomplish that, but I think over time, I think once she wins the medals, I think it would be unquestionable about her talent and her quality.
Okay, Leighton, thanks, man, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Take it easy, guys.
Leighton Lever there, adding his expertise to our recap of the World Indoors in Nanjing, China over the weekend. We go to break. We have a lot more coming up on the SportsMax Zone.